millions of people are quitting vaping every year. Like Jordan.
I felt the effects of vaping on my lungs, and you'll go up and down the court and then, all right, I need to get out.
Need help quitting vaping? Text Ditch Vape to 88709.
Windows has been a part of our lives for decades now, whether we like it or not. Since we left humble Windows 3.1 behind, we've been on a constant cycle of good and bad releases of Windows. Like, check this out. Windows 95? Good. 98? Bad. 98 SE? Good. ME? Bad. XP? Good. Vista? Bad. 7? Good. 8? Bad. 10? Good. 11? What will 11 be? Well, that's a bit of a difficult question to answer. On one hand, it looks a lot like 10. On the other, there are far more changes than we originally thought. So today, I'm going to take you on my personal tour of the Windows 11 beta and show you everything I think is cool, as well as everything that's not. But first, let's take a look at this video's sponsor, Zoho Projects.
Thanks to Zoho for sponsoring today's video. Zoho Projects is a project management tool that has everything you need for your business and integrates with your favorite apps. Get a 30-day trial of their Enterprise Edition by using the link in the video description.
Sure, most of the changes in Windows 11 appear superficial, and in many ways they are. But when there are enough superficial changes, eventually that coalesces into something much bigger. So let's talk UI. Our first look at the updated Fluent UI was a very incomplete one, and while that old leak did have the fancy new rounded window corners, it was running in a virtual machine, and not only was the performance bad, the UI clearly still resembled Windows 10. Not so much anymore. The start menu is significantly more polished now, and far from laggy. Search, which has a dedicated bar in the start menu now, is ridiculously quick, so no waiting a second or two for Windows to catch up with what you typed. It's pretty much instantaneous. The dedicated space for pinned and recommended apps hasn't changed, and now that live tiles are gone, it should make pinning apps a lot more straightforward than it used to be in Windows 8 and onward. I swear I've seen this menu layout in Linux before though. In case you don't like it, there are already third-party replacements popping up, so don't worry too much about that. Anyway, the All Apps button on the top right brings you to an alphabetical listing of all the apps on your system, just like the start menu does by default today. Folders, at least for now, still seem to work as they do in Windows 10, but Microsoft says that they're going to be removing folders entirely from the start menu for the final release. The taskbar itself, yes, it's centered. However, you can change that by right-clicking on it and clicking on Taskbar Settings. Though you'll note that right-clicking no longer gives you any window controls, task manager, or toolbars to play with, and you can't change the position it's located on screen either. Sorry, no more vertical taskbar for you, A-Prime. You can also turn on and off the dedicated search button, which, despite it being the same thing as the start menu search, is actually kind of useful now because it gives you recent search results as you hover over it. That's pretty cool. You can also turn on and off the integrated Teams chat and the widget panel button. Speaking of the widgets panel, that's a thing. They made a big deal about it, but frankly, I don't see it being all that useful. By default, you've got your weather, your money, your sports, and your news, but I'd hazard to guess that most people aren't using Microsoft services for those. There doesn't seem to be a way to personalize it outside of Microsoft services. There's no widget store. So basically the only way to manage your news or interests is to go to MSN. Your mileage may vary here. Hopefully, Microsoft allows third-party widgets to exist here too. Otherwise, I see it being completely overlooked by almost everyone. Sort of like that news and interests button that Windows 10 recently got. Notification Center, meanwhile, has been significantly updated with a very Apple-like view of stacked cards that includes the calendar as well as your notifications. The controls that used to live here, like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth toggles, now live in the same area as the network and audio icons in the system tray, which is now called Taskbar Corner, I guess. And they similarly slide in as cards, including controls for any media that's currently playing. Like Windows 10, you can choose which quick settings are visible here if, for example, you want a keyboard layout switcher. Boop, there it is. Unlike Windows 10, Right-clicking on most objects in the OS, the desktop included, now brings up a new glassy context menu with bigger, more spaced out items. With this Show More Options button here, which just shows the old Windows context menu. You can't win them all, I guess. That's going to be interesting for people with, say, 7-zip in their right-click menu, who now are going to have to make extensive use of this Show More Options button. Have fun with that. But hey, it's not all bad. In folder views, there's now an Open in Windows Terminal item, a feature that I legit use in Linux all the time. It's a nice touch. Windows Terminal, by the way, is a brand new app. It's hardware accelerated and it can run any kind of command prompt at all in a tabbed interface, keeping your workspace a little bit more manageable than it has been in the past. Where Windows 10 only has PowerShell and command prompt, and these are available here as well, you can add your own. Here we go. We can use any command line we want. So if I had Bash, for example, with Subsystem for Linux, that would work here too. Oh, and like many Linux terminal emulators, it can detect URLs and make them clickable. This is all pretty sweet, if you ask me. It's a long overhaul. File Explorer has been completely redesigned with a simplified UI that only has the most common features right there in the top bar. It's not a ribbon anymore. Instead, context-sensitive options like formatting or optimizing drives and mapping network shares live in this See More menu, and incidentally, Map Network Drive isn't an option in the right-click menu anymore, much to my chagrin. There's no right-click control to customize the top panel either, at least not yet, but the familiar options window is still there so you can tweak how everything works. Almost all the options here are the same as in Windows 10, but there's one standout setting: decrease space between items, aka compact view. You can also toggle this on the main bar's view menu, and what this does is restore the old views for lists, details, and small icons. Wait, old views? Yep. By default, Windows 11 adds extra spacing to these views, including on the sidebar, presumably to make touch inputs less frustrating. It's an interesting approach to be sure, but it's probably going to annoy you at first. Unlike our new water bottle lids, super slick, and you get a 50% discount if you buy it with or already own an LTT water bottle at LTT stores. What may also annoy you are the new folder icons. Seriously, they look like they were taken from a random Linux theme with how mismatched the colors and iconography are. Not only that, but the indicator that a folder contains files is much smaller now, being an itsy bitsy sliver of white next to the folders tab. Sure, it looks neater and is more realistic, I guess, but it's tougher to make out at a glance because rather than looking for a shape, you're now looking for contrast. And the icons are already pretty bright, so good luck with that. Not only that, but that also means you don't get any icon previews of files in a folder as you do on Windows 10. Can't say I'm a fan. And not all apps got the same makeover that Explorer and Terminal have either. Notepad is still as basic as ever, and if you dig around enough, you'll find apps that date back to Windows 3.1, complete with 16 color icons. The old school control panel is still hanging out here too, if you look for it, although unlike the phone dialer, they did give it new icons. To Microsoft's credit, there's more functionality in the new Settings app than ever before, so chances are you won't need to dig through the old control panel as often as you used to. Crucially, toggles to enable and disable network adapters have been added to the new Advanced Network Settings pane, and you can get all the relevant status info here too. It still opens up the old school network connections window if you need to make any changes to the adapters themselves though, or do anything fancy like bridging. There are a few other goodies in here, like being able to restrict app access to download folders, as well as all the existing controls for documents, pictures, etc. And all of this is laid out in a much easier to navigate selection of submenus than the sometimes labyrinthine settings menu in Windows 10. It's still there, it's just a lot easier to navigate IMO. Even the system overview, that frankly isn't that useful in Windows 10, got an overhaul, now showing you the status of Office 365, OneDrive, and Windows Update. The display section got a significant overhaul too. Now, multiple displays are hidden behind a menu rather than having display arrangement panel front and center, like if you have a single monitor, why do you need it? Scale and resolution are higher up on the list of most items, although I would prefer the refresh rate to be adjustable here too, hidden under the advanced display settings. To be fair, I guess for most people that really is an advanced setting, so I guess I'll give it a pass. HDR though, that has its own section that comes before all the others. No longer a little link hidden among all the other stuff. The menu itself isn't significantly different, but it does include the auto HDR setting, which we'll get to later. For now, if we go back to the advanced display settings pane, you'll see that Microsoft has added lines about the HDR certification and peak brightness of your display, which is such a nice quality of life thing for troubleshooting. It really feels like HDR is finally becoming a first-class feature, and it's about time. Come on, Linux, time to pick up the pace. It's not to say that all the settings apps are good. Changing your default browser becomes significantly more difficult now. The removal of common app types like web browsers, mail readers, and media players. Instead, now you have to change the handler for every link type and file type individually, which... Microsoft, buddy, listen. This used to be a criticism of Linux. Why do you want to make it a criticism of Windows? Where the logical conclusion is that you're doing it so that people will finally give up and use Edge. It's all well and good that you want to give people more granular control, but as user-friendly as this UI is, I don't want to spend 5 minutes adjusting all of these settings every time I switch to using a new app. Can you imagine what the new set as default browser prompts are going to look like? Speaking of imagining how things look, while using Windows 11, one of the things you'll notice is that even apps that aren't designed around Windows 11's rounded corners design, well, they've got rounded corners. Even things with custom skins like Steam. This hasn't been a problem for me yet, but I guess we'll have to see if it reacts poorly to certain types of windows like skinned media players, for example. What? People still use those, right? Windows 11 is less consistent with other design elements, though. It's still jarring to be in dark mode and load up a classic app like Notepad or Device Manager and see that it's still using the old school Windows UI where even the title... At least touch users should appreciate how much easier it is to drag stuff around thanks to the larger touch targets, as well as the new touchscreen gestures and better auto rotation with snapped windows. The new touch keyboard resembles most mobile keyboards in both standard and small modes, right down to the emoji and tenor GIF button. Interestingly, there's also classic emotes and Cowmoji here, though while categorized, these aren't searchable like emoji are. Man, these classic ASCII emoticons bring back memories. Oh, whoa, what's this? Holy balls. This video's gone on for how long, and I've only talked about the new UI? See what I mean about lots of superficial changes coming together to make something much more substantial? The crazy part is I'm not even done yet. Virtual desktops got a lot of love, and you can set them up almost as completely different workspaces with unique wallpaper and snap layouts. But what are snap layouts? These let you create window layouts like how you've been able to do since Windows 7, but with far more flexibility than we've seen to date. And, thanks to the Snap Groups feature, these layouts can be saved and restored when you connect an external display, for example. Snap Groups keep these layouts in a single place on the taskbar so it can be minimized and maximized wholesale. You can kick this whole process off by either dragging your window to the side of the screen as usual, or by hovering over a Windows Maximize button and selecting a layout. You need a 1920 pixel wide display in order to access these triple snap layouts, but overall this whole feature set is a serious improvement for not just laptop users, but anyone whose desktop layout randomly shifts when their monitors go to sleep. Like mine. My workstation's monitors do that to me, all the time. I use a program called Sizer to shuffle windows around, but this could mean I no longer need it. Now all I need is alt dragging integrated into Windows. I can dream, right? Overall though, the UI feels much smoother and more responsive than Windows 10, and a lot of that probably boils down to faster, smoother animations, particularly in modern UI apps. But even something as small as launching File Explorer feels more responsive than it does on Windows 10. And aside from potential optimizations under the hood and what Microsoft calls a new storage stack, my suspicion is that Windows 11 is leaning on its heavier RAM requirements in order to more aggressively cache recently and frequently used programs. I don't have any solid proof of this, however. Now let's talk new features. Running Android apps is the big one many people are looking forward to, but unfortunately I've got nothing to tell you about them because they haven't been enabled in Windows 11 yet. Not even by downloading the APK files manually. I did try. The Microsoft Store looks pretty much like it does in Windows 10 right now, so presumably once that gets updated, we'll be able to get a peek at how this all will work. For now, you'll just have to hurry up and wait, I suppose. The other big headline feature is direct storage, although it's no longer Windows 11. Direct storage basically accelerates the loading of textures and assets into your graphics card's memory without having to bother with the CPU at all, so the CPU is free to do its own thing. It makes things a lot faster, or at least it should. We just don't know yet. What it will supposedly be in Windows 11 is faster than it will be on Windows 10 as a result of that new storage stack. Although, again, how this works in practice is anyone's guess because we don't have a baseline for how it runs on Windows 10 yet either. Once it's supported, we'll be checking it out, so make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss it. There are some features we can test today, and the big one is Auto HDR. This debuted on the Xbox Series, and as the name suggests, this requires an HDR monitor and can automatically generate HDR metadata for SDR games running DirectX 11 or 12. It works by generating a heat map for high-intensity pixels and translating that into extra brightness data that can be displayed as though it were HDR. The effect is honestly shockingly good. It doesn't crush blacks or blow out whites, and it doesn't feel like the color space is artificially extended. Like in some scenes, the HDR effect doesn't look any different from SDR at all. But in others, the difference is night and day, and this is going to be what makes HDR enabled instead of toggling it on and off all the time. It's not quite on the same level of native HDR support in games, but it's pretty dang impressive nonetheless. This split screen effect, by the way, is unique to the beta version of Windows 11, and it's hidden behind a red button. Frankly, I think they should put a toggle on the HDR settings page so people can test their games and displays, but what do I know? Windows 11 is expected to launch sometime in the holiday season. Current rumors suggest October. And when it does, you've got a bit of prep work to do before you can upgrade. We've already done a dedicated video on how to install Windows 11, but the short version is that you'll need to enable your system's trusted platform module, either physical or built into your firmware, and you'll need to enable secure boot. Without these prerequisites, the official installation methods won't allow you to proceed because these features together allow for significant security improvement. This security, which can be enabled in Windows 10 as well by enabling your TPM and Secure Boot, is also why Microsoft isn't officially supporting Intel's Kaby Lake or AMD's Ryzen 1000 processors. Those CPUs lack the instructions necessary to do this security in hardware, meaning you'll take a performance hit. Here are the full official system requirements, in case you were curious. We've marked everything that can be worked around with an asterisk. The upgrade is going to be free for all current Windows 10 users, just like Windows 10 was free for Windows 7 and 8 users. But we still don't know if it'll cost anything for new builds. If it does, presumably it'll be the same price as Windows 10 right now, which is $109 for Home and $149 for Pro. But should you upgrade? If you've got a very recent PC and you can't bear the thought of leaving Windows, chances are yes. But if not, or if you just don't want to until the bugs are ironed out, Windows 10 is going to stick around until October 2025, which should give you plenty of time to weigh your options. And plenty of time for this segue to our sponsor, Micro Center.
Thanks Micro Center for sponsoring this video. You can get the best prices and selection on anything tech at any one of Micro Center's 25 locations across the United States. If you use Micro Center's custom PC builder, you can spec out the best PC at any price point, and once you're done in the PC builder, just add your computer and setup to the Micro Center Custom Build Showcase, which is a great place for people to gather and discuss each other's builds and get inspiration for their next PC. So don't wait, head to the link in the video description to check out Micro Center and get a coupon code for a free pair of wireless Bluetooth headphones.
Thanks for watching, guys. Go check out our recent video on how to install Windows 11 for a little more on those workarounds I mentioned, and see some of these changes for yourself.
A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online so any small business can make it famous. We need a new generation of thinking, your way of thinking. Start different at GoDaddy.com.
Boy, have I got a fun project for you guys today. My parents' new cabin is completely off-grid, which means that if they want anything resembling a modern standard of living, they have got some problems to solve. Everything from power generation to clean drinking water to where to store sanitary waste is going to... Okay, well, I guess they figured all that out without me, leaving just one thing for their firstborn son. How to get an internet connection from all the way over there on the mainland to this point right here. Thankfully, we've got a backup plan. It's gonna be a doozy. And it's brought to you by Kimiko. KiwiCo ships out crates that contain hands-on projects for kids to help develop their creative confidence and problem-solving skills. Learn more at the end of this video or at the link down below. Step one of our little project today then is to take our two crews, one that's going to be stationed at Lions Bay Marina back there, and the other one that gets to ride across the water in my parents' boat with all the equipment that we're going to need. One of our most important pieces of equipment, of course, is our Airfiber 60LR dish/radio system combo unit from Ubiquiti. This is what we're going to use to get a 60 gigahertz beam up to 1 gigabit per second straight across the water. In theory, we're going to have similar latency and bandwidth to if we just ran like a straight up Cat 5e network cable, except that we're going to be going like, what is it, about 5 clicks? Something like that, about 5 kilometers. And now that we're on site, our next challenge is to figure out exactly where we're gonna get a clear line back to the marina. So Jake and I are trying to sort this out.
So unfortunately, due to us being a little time constrained, we had to go grab some stuff from the hardware store and come back. And by the time we got here, Linus had already shipped off on the boat to the other side. Now what that means is he wasn't able to stand here and tell me where roughly it is, so I'm trying to spot him. He's on that side like doing jumping jacks, waving his hands, and we're trying to see him through the binoculars, but they're not exactly the zoom I would want for the 6-ish kilometers it takes to get over there, so this is gonna be a little tricky, but we're gonna try to at least get a rough spot of where he is, and then we can move over to try to get the dish on the wall and then tilt it from there. Good luck to us. It's so difficult to make it out, like I can't hold the binoculars steady enough to see an object.
I'm waving my arms around like a madman.
Like he's a pretty small human, so. Oh wait, hey, do you see that boat going across right now?
I think I sent you a pin.
Do you see the boat?
Negative. There is no boat anywhere near me.
Is there like some crisscross lumber like set up as a support or construction or something?
Yes, that's the one, crisscross lumber. How can you not see me?
There's no, or there is?
There is.
There is, I think I see you then.
Well, do you see a person jumping around or not? Hi! Can you see this?
Are you fingering me?
All right, I think we have contact.
I definitely can't see it, but I just assumed.
All right, I'm heading back up to the house. As you can see, the inside is still a construction zone, which doesn't prevent my parents from putting up some pictures on the wall. You know, you gotta make it homey. Anyway, none of that's our problem, because we're gonna be out here on the top deck. This is perfect. I couldn't tell from down there, but we have a perfect straight shot to the marina. I can see it clear as day. This is gonna be awesome. See that blue kind of like shipping container looking thing? Bright blue. It's just to the left of that. It's gonna be easy as pie.
I think we are on what is the sketchiest scissor lift I've ever seen. Like, look at this. It's bent to crap. It shakes. It's got a little wiggle. Brandon really likes it. And we only have to go that high. Like another one of me. So it's not gonna be that bad, but it's pretty sketchy. I guess it's better than a ladder though. You ready? Oh, oh, it's not that bad.
Okay, just stop testing. Jake?
I have to go over here to do this. All right, I'm gonna grab the mount. Let's just try to walk in the middle, I guess.
I'm not moving.
You're not moving?
I'm not moving.
Okay.
Time to sit my butt on this nice blue chair and do a haul video, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some Ethernet cable. We've got a jackery just to power things while we're testing. We've got a cordless drill. We've got an Edge Switch 10XP. This is a 10-port power over Ethernet switch. So we plug our included power adapter into the back here. and then it's going to provide power to our connected devices over these RJ45 ports. Now these guys over here, these are SFP. They are not going to be able to do power over Ethernet, but if for whatever reason we had other SFP gear, we could be using that. We've also got this cute little guy. This is the UAP Flex HD. This is a lovely little wireless access point. It's PoE powered, it's outdoor rated, so that means that probably what we're going to end up doing is taking this puppy, putting it right next to the switch, and I'm willing to bet with how open it is here and how little interference there is, I'm going to get an internet connection on this from basically the entire property here. It comes with a PoE injector if you don't have a PoE switch, but we do, so we don't need that. Also, I'll need a laptop to connect up my gear over here. And of course, yes, the big guy, the Airfiber 60LR. All right. Come on! Oh, that's my walkie. So we've got our dish here. We've got the, the personal massager. The shower head. This is the radio component of it. So this puppy just is gonna go in a little something like that. There you go. Oh yeah, you don't even need the manual. Who needs a manual, boys? Another PoE injector. We won't need that because we do have a PoE switch. This, flips on here. This pops open here, so we can get at the RJ45 jack there. That's where our power over Ethernet and of course our data are going to come in. It runs down this arm, comes out this weather resistant thing here, and then all that's left is the pole mount that's included in the box, and this.
Anyway, so let's talk about mounting a little bit. Usually a dish like this would end up on the roof of a building, probably like a skyscraper or on a tower of some sort with a pole. But in our case, we're trying to mount it to the side of a building. So we looked at a few different options and it seemed like a satellite dish mount was the best course of action. And surprisingly, it's kind of difficult to get these things in really urban areas because they don't really use satellites a lot anymore. But I did find a guy that actually does satellite teardowns, and he had a bunch of extra ones sitting in his storage locker. So bada bing, there we go. Now we are drilling into concrete, which makes this a little more difficult, but it should be okay. We got our hammer drill, we got some Tapcon screws, which are made for concrete. Everything should be okay. I just sort of have to plan it out and mark it. Hopefully that works. Right there. The only thing is, once I put it on the wall, it's gonna be very difficult for me to adjust. I can't look through the viewfinder, if you know what I mean. Linus is like on a deck on that side, so he can look through a viewfinder.
Oh, you're right, Andy. This is the viewfinder. There you are.
I guess we don't really have much choice, so. The hole on the mount is actually a little bit bigger than the hole that we need, so I got a little bit of flexibility. Just me, or is that like spinning? Whoa. Wow, it literally completely stripped it. We are following the instructions. Yeah, maybe it's just really strong wall or something. I also got some different ones that are a little smaller. I did bring another solution. Some like plugs. I'm having the time of my life right now. Okay. Wow, I am so glad that you were able to get it in there. I was starting to get a little worried there.
Now let's talk some speeds and feeds for this bad boy. This right here, regular old gigabit network port, but what's special about it is that it uses 60 gigahertz wireless in order to fully saturate this thing. So that is 2 gigabit total, 1 gigabit send, 1 gigabit receive, if Ubiquity's specs are to be believed. As for how they get around the range limitations of 60 gigahertz, if you guys remember, 60 gigahertz can be blocked by a piece of paper if you happen to have, Y gig in your house. So how's it gonna go 5 kilometers across the water? Well, that's because A, there's no piece of paper in between, that's very important, and B, because these antennas are sending just a narrow beam of data across the water instead of just trying to send it in all directions, they're much more focused and they can do up to apparently 12 kilometers on this particular model.
We're gonna leave that over there for now, and I wanna talk about the mount a little bit. So this is a pretty cool piece of kit they include with this dish. It actually has a bunch of very accurate adjustments you can do just by the degree. And then once you figure out, you've done your alignment tool, you've gotten it where you want it to be, you can actually just lock them on both axes, which is really cool. Now, what we're probably gonna have to do is clamp this on, get it where we think roughly it should be, and it might be a good hour of tilting and screwing around with it until we get it where we want it to be.
The screwdriver, lttstore.com. Just kidding, we don't have those yet. But the dad hats are coming soon. These are sick. They're awesome. I've got two different screw sizes, Andy. I've got the good enough to hold it up size, and I've got the just in case someone has a couple wobbly pops and decides to try to hang off of it. You want the big boy? All right, you got it. All right, I think we're good now. Is everyone happy? I can go ahead and lean off the porch? All right, someone gonna pull me back in? I guess I can use the rope. All right, what are we secured to? That's real high up, boys! Okay.
I think this is a Ubiquiti approved installation method. What do you think, Brennan? There is a viewfinder that this thing comes with. Linus probably showed you. This little guy, and you actually clip it into the back of the dish, but I don't really have a way to look through it. You know, actually, maybe if I put it on this side, I think it can mount in a couple. Oh my God. The viewfinder they included in this kit is really nice because it forces your perspective to be in line with the dish where it's pointed. I thought I was decently lined up, right? But if I look through the viewfinder, I am pointed right at the ocean. So I'm gonna adjust this up a little bit, and now I am pointed at the sky, which I also don't want.
I got my harness, so I'm not too worried about falling to my death at this point. Let's go ahead and loosen this a little bit. There we go. Now we're a little off. We're probably about, I'd say, 5 degrees low. Wow, actually, I don't know, actually. We might have freaking nailed it.
All right, I'm gonna leave it right there, and I'll have to wait until Linus is ready to go.
Now, obviously, the plan would be to power this using something other than a portable battery bank. So they're gonna have a combination of solar, wind, and then there's actually a little creek that runs through the property that gets water about 8 months out of the year. So that's the plan for the future. But for today, we're just testing it. So I'm just gonna plug us into this.
As with most of Ubiquiti's other stuff, this is PoE powered. Usually a PoE injector like this would be mounted inside, or you'd have a PoE powered switch. But for now, we're just gonna have this up on the scissor lift with us, and I put a really long cable, so maybe once it's lined up, we can go down to the ground, but it's probably gonna be a while. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get an ISP to run internet here yet. They said it's gonna be a couple week lead time. So instead, we brought our little LTE puck, which is kind of funny because you would usually just take the LTE puck to the other side and have that as your internet, but no, we want to test this link. So this is gonna act as our router and provide us some internet access so we can actually try this out. Pretty easy. Bam, we're plugged in. That's all I gotta do. It's working!
I haven't even connected to the Bluetooth thing yet.
You plugged it in? I guess we just lined it up. It says our link is about 77% optimal, but it says our capacity is 2 gigabit right now.
Are you kidding me right now? You know, the whole time over here I've been like, there's gonna be change. And then I was kind of setting it up for that moment in the video where I might have proven to be wrong, but
It was pretty cake. It says our capacity is 2 gigabit. I guess with 78% link, that's enough.
Okay, I think I'm just straight up connected to you now. I grabbed the driver and boom, let me just see. Here it is, we're logged into the Gambier House dashboard. We can see our Airfiber 60 LRB and A. So one of them's at Lions Bay Marina, one of them's at the Gambier House. They've both got their IP addresses, their uptime. Fantastic. I am in the dashboard on my computer and I am connected to the dish on my phone. Everything is blinking. Sure didn't. You know what? I wonder if it's just people moving around. All right, we got to wrap this up pretty quick here. How do we do the fine-tuning thing? It's amazing how much a little bit of wibble wobbling affects things. Immediately when you were like, I'm tightening it down, I saw it jump all over the place. Honestly, I think we nailed it right out of the gate.
I got a little more horizontal adjustment to do, so give me a minute. I guess at this distance, like, you got to be adjusting it like fractions of a degree. It's crazy how much of a difference like a quarter turn of this knob makes in terms of where it's actually pointed if you look through the viewfinder.
It's very responsive though. Like you can see within about a second or two if what you're doing is working. Oh, and it's gone. What'd you do? Move in front of the antenna?
I accidentally bopped it with my elbow.
This is it. Big test time.
Test. Alright. Okay, I'm starting. Ping is 1 millisecond.
Nice. Oh, look at this! Look at this! 923 megabit per second download, 903 upload.
It fluctuates a bit, but that's pretty impressively stable.
But fluctuate. That's freaking rock solid. Oh, that's freaking awesome. I'm stoked. I'm stoked. This is great. So all they got to do is a little bit of cable management, get that cable run into the house, and that's something they can handle on their side. And then we're ready to rock.
Pretty exciting. Wait, I want to try a one-way test because I think theoretically we can get higher speed.
Oh wow, without the Ethernet port as a bottleneck, like this thing is actually capable of greater than the Ethernet port on the freaking thing. So we're going across the water and we're literally bottlenecked by the wire.
There's got to be a metaphor here.
You know what else there's a metaphor for?
This segue to our sponsor.
You know it, baby. Big thanks to KiwiCo for sponsoring this video. KiwiCo is a monthly subscription service that helps introduce and make STEAM topics fun and engaging for kids of all ages. KiwiCo believes that if you start learning small things today, you can produce world-changing ideas tomorrow. Each crate is designed by experts and contains everything you need to complete it with detailed, kid-friendly instructions. That means you don't need to run off to the store to get extra supplies like glue or scissors. It's all ready to go. They've got 8 different subscription lines, each catering to a different age group and different kinds of topics. And the crate that we're looking at here is at Kiwi level for kids ages 5 to 8 that teaches programming and robotics. Another one is the Eureka level, which is for teens aged 14 plus, which highlights basic engineering and sound practices. KiwiCo is a great way to keep kids, not to mention adults, occupied for hours, and they now ship to over 40 different countries. So don't wait. Fight summer brain drain today at kiwico.com/LTT to get your first month for free. If you guys enjoyed this video, you might enjoy us not doing it quite as successfully. So maybe go check out our last attempt. We did a greater distance that time, but boy, was it ever a nightmare to get it working. This was totally painless. And look how good it looks by comparison. You can see right through the dish. It hardly even obstructs the view.
Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. It's amazing because Discover's accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
And we're live, I hope.
Hello. Welcome to the WAN Show.
Welcome to the WAN Show, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a fantastic show lined up for you guys today. A lot of good topics. Microsoft has updated, clarified, whatever word you want to use to describe it. The Windows 11 recommended system requirements now allow you to install it on an older PC. So we're going to talk through all the details of that. In other news, Western Digital appears to have pulled data, swapping out components on their solid-state drives. Oh, by the way, Samsung also got busted doing the same thing earlier this week. So we're going to talk in more detail about that. What else we got here?
OnlyFans reverses their decision on banning adult content, so dodged that. Didn't waste a bunch of development time there. Nice.
Nice.
Also, TSMC has raised their prices by up to 20%, and so has like Global Foundries, PSMC, SMIC, UMC, just everybody raising prices across the board.
Electronics are about to get even more expensive, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and roll that intro. Hopefully there'll be some good news as well.
Nope, only bad. Yeah. Actually, there is good news.
And the show is brought to y'all today by our sponsors, PDF Element, Secret Lab, and Green Man Gaming. All right, let's jump right into our first topic of the day. Microsoft has updated the Windows 11 recommended system requirements. This comes to us courtesy of Microsoft's own blog. This is a little update on Windows 11 minimum system requirements and the PC Health Check app. If you guys didn't remember, the PC Health Check app was this super basic tool that pretty much just said, hey, you're not eligible, without really telling you exactly why, which led to a fair bit of confusion in the Windows community, which is basically the PC user community. Although, I actually hosted a Facebook Live audio room earlier that ended up being a fantastic discussion with the one and only Wendell from Level 1 Techs, with the topic being Linux, then, now, and the future. And he and I both agreed, for different reasons, that desktop computing in the future could easily change over to Linux. Or at least I think I convinced him. I think I convinced him of my rationale behind it. And we can, I don't know, Luke, if you want to throw that in the doc, we can talk about that a little bit more later. But getting Wendell's contribution aside is probably really important. I think it's pinned on our Facebook page. It's a live audio room. Anyway, Microsoft made a blog post today outlining their results from a revisit to the Windows 11 system requirements. And there's some good takeaways here, and there's also some ones that are going to be really disappointing for a lot of people who bought computers not that long ago. What they do is that the original list of compatible 64-bit processors, blah, 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 is the right minimum system requirements to deliver on the principles they established for the best user support. So they're basically saying, after further inspection, we were correct. They did, however, identify that there was a group of PC models that met the principles while running on 7th gen rather than 8th gen or higher CPUs. So Intel's Core 7820HQ, okay, but this is only select devices that shipped with modern drivers based on declarative, componentized, hardware backend app design principles, and Intel's Core X series and Xeon W series. So those are the only 7th gen CPUs that they found met the requirement. So to summarize, this means that if you have a 1st gen Ryzen CPU, which last time I checked was really not that long ago. I mean, when did the Ryzen 1600X launch? 2017. That was only, is that right? Yep, April 2017, just 4 years ago. Windows 11 is not for you. And if you have a 7th gen CPU that isn't one of the ones that we just listed, so basically most of them, you are plumb out of luck. The Civic Ryzen 2000 series CPUs as well. So typically this would be ones like the 2200G and 2400G. If I recall correctly, those are not Zen 2 based. Those are like Zen Plus or something like that. Are they Zen 1 or what type of Zen are they? Blah, 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 based on the Zen architecture. So they were named 2000 series, but effectively they weren't. I'm really glad that AMD is cleaning up this problem with their processor naming scheme now. For a while they had multiple CPUs that sounded like they were a generation further along than they actually were, and it looks like as we move into 5000 and 6000 series, that should no longer be the case going forward. I really hope they can keep that tidy. There was really no excuse for how stupid that was. Now, their reasoning for not adding more CPUs or older ones to the list was due to reliability, security, and compatibility. Sorry, what? They didn't provide any sort of granularity to these results, though. Like their crash numbers apply to all 7th gen CPUs, or like, so here basically this is an Imgur capture of what they mean by that. So reliability means devices that do not meet the minimum system requirements had 52% more kernel mode crashes. Sort of raises a question, who is that on? Is that on Microsoft, or is that on the device, the person who didn't upgrade their computer? Devices that do meet the minimum system requirements had a 99.8% crash-free experience. Okay. Security. Windows 11 raises the baseline, blah, 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 etc., etc. Compatibility. People continue to increasingly use their PCs for video conferencing, productivity, and gaming. And they set the minimum system requirements to align with some of the most commonly used apps. Well, one issue I have with that is that basically just sounds like Microsoft wants to hand over every user who only needs to do basic word processing and email to Google. Okay, Microsoft says, why don't you just buy Chromebook then? To which people might reply, I guess I will. So that's interesting. Oh,
I have
man.
been trying so hard to find this audio room, and I don't know if I'm just too young for Facebook now or what, but as far as I can tell, it's just gone.
If you know, I just looked out of the computer to find it. According to The Verge, Microsoft also clarified that they will only be enforcing their system requirements if you are upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11. This will not be enforced on clean installations of Windows 11. So the good news from all of this is that Microsoft is basically sticking to its plan. For the best Windows 11 experience, you really should have a newer computer. But if you install Windows 11 clean from a USB thumb drive, nothing will prevent you from installing it on an older machine. So apparently this functionality is designed primarily for businesses to evaluate Windows 11, and they will allow people to upgrade to it at their own risk in this edition, but the company can't guarantee driving compatibility and overall system reliability. Microsoft will not be recommending or advertising this method of installing Windows 11 to consumers. So that was a lot of doom and gloom and bad sounding stuff at the beginning of this segment, but overall I think this is about the best we could have expected. Now, this is probably my tinfoil hat kind of coming out here a little bit, but I think the big takeaway here is not the method by which Microsoft is allowing Windows 11 to be installed on older hardware, but rather the specific users that Microsoft is locking out of Windows 11. And that would be people that are taking advantage of loopholes in the Microsoft free upgrade from older operating systems system that allow them to sort of launder a pirated copy of Windows by just upgrading it through multiple versions of Windows. With that said, so it sounds like they're trying to shed a lot of that dead weight that upgraded their cracked versions of Windows 7 to Windows 10, because that would be a group of users that is running older hardware. With that said, I can't see how anything would prevent you from taking that drive, either installing it in a newer system or cloning it over to a newer system and then performing the upgrade. So there'll still be ways to work around it, but maybe it's just going to be a little more difficult. Overall, because Windows 11 is a bit of a nothing burger in terms of performance upgrades from what we saw, at least for gaming, there's no real reason for you to be worried about this in any way, because you can still install it clean if you really want to. And probably the best way to pirate Windows is the official way, which is to just say, no, I don't have a license key when you're installing it, and then just run it forever and not be able to change your desktop background. Oh, except you can if you just right-click on a picture and set its desktop background. That's probably the easiest way to pirate Windows these days. So nothing prevents you from continuing to do that. It's just that Microsoft isn't going to condone you running older hardware. So, all right, sounds good. And I guess I don't have to worry too much about any of it. Also, because I finally activated the Windows install on my home desktop, Luke.
I did too. I don't know if you know about that.
Oh, did you really? Why
I don't
did you
remember
do it?
why. I honestly don't remember. It was quite a while ago, though.
I think I was watching a movie full screen and I was just kind of tired of looking at the watermark. And I was just like, how much does this cost? You know what? Fine.
I feel like I like needed to for some reason or something. Oh, okay. I was on a call. I was on a work call, not with an employee. It was an external. I don't remember who it was, but it was like an external person. And I was screen sharing, and they like mentioned it. And I was like, yep, that doesn't sound very pro. So I fixed it.
Yep, that makes sense. Jake Heavers in Floatplane Chat says, DIY upgraders are such a small segment of the market, they don't care about us. They're drawing a line to maximize the amount of average users they can sell a new OEM license to. Honestly, I don't even think Microsoft is after selling new OEM licenses.
No, I don't think so.
It's not that many. I mean, it's a lot, to be clear. Like here, let's pull up Windows 10 on Newegg, okay? Here we go. All right? Windows 10, this one right here, is the #1 bestseller in operating systems. That makes sense.
Whoa.
1,382 reviews. Now, that's a lot. You know, like if I were to extrapolate those numbers based on the numbers that I see for like the ABCs of gaming on Amazon, how many we sold versus how many reviews those are. I mean, that's tens of thousands, maybe into hundreds of thousands of units probably. Especially when you factor in that there's other avenues by which Microsoft can directly sell Windows to users, and there's other stores other than Newegg. But in the grand scheme of things, okay, let's go look for a Ryzen 5600X CPU. Okay, so let's go take probably the most popular, yep, there it is, the most popular desktop CPU. Holy smokes, 1,766 reviews for this thing. Something here doesn't compute. There's only like, what, maybe, so we got, which Windows 10? So we got 64-bit OEM, we got the retail one with the thumb drive, that's got another 300 reviews. Okay, there's Pro, so that's another 13. Combined, Home and Pro, 1382. Here's another boxed one. Here's a retail one. This is combined with this one though. Oh, that's hilarious. 376. Those are the same. This 285 here. Oh, whoops! You guys can't see what I'm looking at here. Whoops, sorry. These two both have 285, so those appear to be a combined one as well. Something doesn't compute. Clearly, a lot of people are buying the most popular CPU and then not buying Windows. So even the OEM market, what I'm trying to say, is not as big of a deal as you might think. What Microsoft is trying to do is they're trying to drive overall sales of new computers forward, because that's something that Microsoft stands to benefit from in the long term. They want people, when people buy a new computer, they want them buying a new Windows computer, and they want that happening on a reasonably frequent basis because it's good for their partners. What's good for the goose is good for the ganders. And Microsoft has taken that approach for a very, very, very long time. So, yeah, I'm glad they're leaving us the capability to do it. I mean, I suspect they realized that people would have found a hacky way around it anyway. So I'm glad they're just kind of accepting it. But I also understand why they want people to have a good experience on the Windows. A lot of their branding around Windows 11 is going to be, you know, this is the most reliable Windows ever. This is the most secure Windows ever. In other news, speaking of reliability, Western Digital has apparently pulled an ADATA, which is not a good thing. We did a video recently outlining how ADATA has, over the years, played basically a component roulette with the components that might end up in your, what was it, the SX 8100 or 8200? I can't remember exactly the model.
Not sure.
Yeah, the model of SSD. But we had our community submit, and we actually paid them for them. We bought them for, I think it was like twice the market rate, to make it worth people's time to reformat their machine. But we bought these ADATA SSDs from our community, and we compared them, we benchmarked them. We used a tool that allowed us to see exactly what components made them up, and we got 5 different drives that had almost nothing in common with each other. And when you consider that an SSD is just a controller, a DRAM cache, assuming you get a decent one, and NAND flash, if you change even one, let alone 2, or all 3 of those components, you are completely changing it to a different product. So Western Digital has performed a nearly silent NAND swap on the WD Blue SN550, much like the recent incidents with ADATA and Crucial. This new NAND on the SN550 has significantly slower write speeds once the cache becomes exhausted. According to Extreme Tech, the average write speed when the static 12 gig SLC cache is exhausted is as low as 394 megabytes per second on the new drive. Previous iterations of the drive would average around 610 after exhausting the cache. That is a huge difference. And the problem, actually, I see a couple of problems here. One of them is that this is on a drive that advertises write speeds of up to 2,400 megabytes per second. And the other is that the average user would have no way of knowing that a change like this has been made until all of a sudden they go to do something demanding with their drive and it's just slow and they don't understand why. With a 12 gigabyte SLC cache, so if you guys aren't familiar, an SLC cache basically takes a component of your MLC or TLC or QLC NAND, so that's how many bits per cell are being stored, and it operates it in SLC or single bit per cell mode. What that does is it effectively cuts in half or a third or even a quarter how much data you can store on that cache component, but it makes it perform way better, especially for writes and endurance as well, actually, for that matter. All right, so that SLC cache, super fast, and it's great for, if you're installing Photoshop or something like that. That's gonna happen real fast as your CPU can keep up with decompressing the files and feeding the SSD with data to write. The problem is that as soon as you go to do something heavy, 12 gigs is actually not that much in the context of, let's say, for example, installing a video game. Like, Luke, off the top of your head, okay, can you think of any games that are larger than 12 gigabytes? Hit me with one.
I can think of a game that's over 10 times bigger than that. Call of Duty. Call of Duty's notoriously massive. The last few Call of Duty games have been like well over 100 gigs each. The
way these SLC caches work is as long as everything you're doing fits within them, everything is hunky-dory, everything's fast. But once you and then once the drive is idle, it'll flush that cache slowly over time, right? Out to the less performant, TLC or QLC operating mode NAND. All right, so if you were to go and install a massive game, for example, it is very conceivable that after a short period of time, your performance would absolutely tank. And now we're talking as low as about 2/3 of the performance that you would have had before the NAND swap. In the real world, probably won't work out that way. It probably won't affect it to that degree because there are other bottlenecks installing a program, unless you're using raw file copy. But it's not a good look. So here is the statement they made to Tom's Hardware though. In June 2021, we replaced the NAND in the WD Blue SN550 NVMe SSD and updated the firmware. At the time, we updated the product data sheet. For greater transparency going forward, if we make a change to an existing internal SSD, we commit to introducing a new model number whenever any related published specifications are impacted. We value our customers and are committed to providing the best possible solutions for their data storage needs. The issue is that this isn't the first time that